If anyone's trickled in, just give me a second. We're going to get started in a minute. Oh, it looks like you guys are trickling in. Good to see. Good to see. Welcome. Come on in. Have a seat. Bar stools or whatever you need. Let me put this out on the interwebs. Welcome. Welcome. All right. Got some critical mass here. Got some people here. Good evening, J Money, says Kev PhD. We get it, Kev. Dr. Kev. We get it. You know how when someone has a PhD? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Sorry, Kevin. That was you. Those of us less educated make jokes about the people who are smarter. Sorry, that's an alarm on my phone. To remind me to move the elf on a shelf. So if the elf doesn't get moved tonight, it's going to be all of your fault because I will have forgotten. Because if the reminder doesn't hit me in the face, then I just forget those things. I have Brad Eban has come in and said, I know this is a Purdue podcast, but holy shit, can we talk about Sharon Moore and everything around that? What if DeBoer goes to Michigan? Would Lane go to Alabama? Oh my God. No, we're not doing that just yet. Maybe we'll give you a little nugget there. I could talk about that for a while. Nathan says more hoodies. Yes. And welcome to the recap of Purdue's pretty dominant win over Minnesota. I say pretty dominant because the first half was not super dominant, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Speaking of hoodies, let's thank our sponsors, shall we? Home Field Apparel. Go check out Home Field. This one, let me move my microphone for a minute. This shirt, this logo, this crest, this is like one of my favorites, probably my favorite item of theirs. I've got this in a crew. I've got it in a hoodie. I just love the old school look. Plus, it's super comfortable. You hear us say stuff like that, we're not lying to you. It's super comfortable. I like hoodies that have this little drawstring thing too. I don't know why. When you're kind of a thicker guy like me, you want a little room here, right? You like hoodies that aren't right up in your throat. And you get that. You get that with this hoodie. So I encourage you to check it out. Go to Home Field. And as Boiler Dunn always tells you, get your stuff ordered because it takes a little while to get there. So you're going to want it. Christmas is 2 weeks away from tomorrow. Whew, fun to think about. Also, when you're on campus and you've seen Purdue smoke somebody like Minnesota, and as I said in the title, taking out their frustrations on a not hapless, but a poor team that did not deserve the punishment they got. I think Purdue took out their frustrations from the Iowa State loss and decided to reassert themselves, and I think that's what they did. So when you see that happen, go to AJ's, head towards the fire station, turn left, go on in. You will not be disappointed. AJ's Burgers, Beef Beer, and Boiled Sports Magnets. That should be all part of their thing. All right, so let's talk quick about this game. I'm sorry for a little lateness on the recap. I know you guys never hold that against us. That happens sometimes, as you know. A lot of work travel, all the guys, all over the place. Had to catch up, had to listen to part of the game, watch part of the game. I had no doubts Purdue was going to do exactly this. I will tell you that I thought after they lost to Iowa State, I thought Minnesota's in for it because Purdue's not going to lose back-to-back at home. They're not going to lose after that game, and they were going to be pissed. Now, those of you worried about the first half, and I saw some in the comments already say something like, oh, the first half reminded me of FDU. Yeah, Purdue had at one point, I think it was like 21-11 or something like that, and then Minnesota kept keeping it close. If you guys haven't heard me say this, I will say it again now. I would prepare yourself for a lot of games like this season where you get the teams full energy, full swing, everything they've got in that first half, and then Purdue just pulls away because you're going to have teams that can do that for a half. Minnesota has some talented guys. Crocker Johnson's pretty good, but they've only got like 9 guys dressed that are scholarship guys because of injuries. So Minnesota's going to struggle this year. That's not surprising. They did pull off a big win against Indiana, which we didn't talk about at all, which was kind of buried in the weekend of IU winning the Big Ten championship in football and Purdue getting smoked by Iowa State. But Minnesota did pull off a win against Indiana and knock them out of the rankings, so that's always fun. They did not look like the same team tonight. Purdue wins 85-57, winning the second half 50-25. That's what you do if you're a top team, right? You do that. You put teams in the trash bin. You put them away. You don't leave any doubt. And for anyone who thinks, oh, well, the first half was close, so they left some doubt. No, they didn't. I mean, that's going to happen, like I said. So let's take a quick look here at the numbers. What I get excited about, and again, if you've watched me do these, you've heard me say this kind of thing before. Multiple players, distribution is a big thing to me, right? Purdue had five guys in double figures scoring. That's a great sign, right? I don't think anyone will disagree with that. That is terrific. And the minutes were nicely distributed, right? Nobody played a ton. The only guy who played over 30, the only guy who played over 27 was Braden Smith. He had 32 minutes. And again, I will keep repeating myself. I love that Braden's playing 32 minutes and not 38, 39 minutes. I think it's terrific. We'll start with Braden. He's the thumbnail of our recap tonight. He had a great game. He had, in 32 minutes, he had 15 points. He's 3 of 4 from deep. Guy's shooting really well. He had 12 assists. He had 6 rebounds. He had 2 blocks. He had 5 steals. Let's just say that again. 15 points, 3 triples, 75% shooting from there, 6 rebounds, 12 assists, 5 steals, 2 blocks, and 1 foul. He ended up with 4 turnovers, but he was everywhere. So, like, I'll live with it. They only had 9 for the game. Both teams only had 9. Pretty clean in that regard. And fouls were 20-17. Minnesota having 20. So fairly cleanly played game. Minnesota did not shoot well. They shot 36%. Purdue shot 53%. That's, what happens, right? Going through the other guys in double figures, Clough and Wren both had 14. Oscar Clough had 14 points in just 19 minutes. Very, very efficient. 6 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from the line. Clough had 14 points, 11 rebounds. And let's see, TKR had 14 points and 10 rebounds, 7-11 from the field. And then moving along, other double figures, Fletcher Lawyer, double figures, 10 points, 2 of 4 from the field, is 5 of 6 from the line. Let's see here. He had 2 assists, 3 rebounds. And then the other 2 guys, one other guy, double figures, was Daniel Jacobson. In just 21 minutes, he had 11 points. He had 5 rebounds and he had 4 blocks. So I'm always excited to see that because one of the things that, and we've talked about this a few times, that they did not have much of last year was defensive prowess around the basket, right? Rim protectors. Let's take a quick look. I'm just going to look back because I know that TKR caught a lot of flack for this last year. He had 11 blocks on the season last year. Okay. He had 14 the year before that. And I know that's not his game, but he was the guy you were hoping would do that, right? This year, Daniel Jacobson has 20 blocks already. 20 blocks in, what has he played? 9 games. So that's pretty good. Pretty good. So I'm pretty happy to see that. But Jacobson had 11 points, like I said, 5 rebounds and 4 blocks. Good game. Really good game. There was some other scoring out there. Cox had 7. Meyer had 5. Liam Murphy had 3. Jack Spencer had a point. He was 1 of 4 from the line. Purdue was 15 of 22 from the line. They cleaned it up a little, but they started kind of weakly. Jakari Harris had 5 points. So a lot of distribution, a lot of scoring, 5 guys in double figures. Just Purdue just looked like the better team. They looked like the complete team. Another thing to note here, and I saved this somewhere. Let me look. Oh, tonight Braden Smith crossed over 1,500 career points. And the stat that got thrown up there by Purdue basketball, take this for what it's worth, because I think it's one of those you're cherry picking stuff. It's still amazing. It's incredible no matter what, but where these break points are kind of interesting. He's the 4th player in NCAA history with 1,500 points, 825 assists, and 550 rebounds. Somebody must have 824 assists or something, but 1,500 points, 825 assists, and 550 rebounds. 4th guy ever to do that. So, he's the guy. He's who he is. He's who you think he is. He's as good as you think he is, and he's as good as he's been made out to be. And people can say whatever they want. He's not going to be brilliant every night, but he's really good most nights, right? I mean, Braden Smith for the year, he's averaging 13 points, almost 9 assists. He's shooting 40% from the field. He's shooting 40. Let me take a look here. He's shooting almost 42% from deep. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. His assists numbers are right around where they were last year. These points are off a little bit, which is interesting because I feel like he's had some big games scoring wise. But those numbers, I don't look at that too much because Purdue has so much more, like I said, depth distribution that you're going to see some numbers, maybe averages dip a little bit. Um, but this is, what you'd expect out of this team, right? For anyone who was nervous after Sunday, and I don't blame you if you were, um, this is what you want to see happen, right? You want to see them respond. And I think there are teams, and we've seen this, there are teams that go into a tailspin when they lose a tough game like that, or if they get pounded, they start to question themselves, right? They question who they are, if their methods work. Weak-willed teams or teams that don't necessarily believe in their coaching, which we know that's not an issue, but like those are the teams that they start to stray from the things, right? Everybody who's played team sports, particularly things like basketball that require you to remain committed to your approach, if you stray from that, that's when things really fall apart. Guys not, sagging off things, not following assignments the way they're supposed to, not being crisp on different things. That's when you start to see things. And you can point, and this isn't just me picking on Indiana, you can point to some of the recent Indiana teams that were loaded with talent, or Rutgers loaded with talent last year and couldn't do anything. And it kind of spirals as things start getting worse, right? That's, you should feel confident that's not what's going to happen here. Quickly looking ahead, on the 13th, this Saturday, Purdue plays Marquette. That's on Peacock, 2 p.m. game. And then they have a week off before they play in Indianapolis against Auburn. Both of those are tests. Don't kid yourself. Both of those are going to be tests. And then they have Kent State over break. And then they get right back into the Big Ten schedule. But Purdue is 2-0 in the Big Ten. The only other 2-0 team right now is UCLA. There will be others. I think when I look at the Big Ten, especially after the whipping on Sunday, made me look around and watch some other games. I watched most of Florida and UConn yesterday, and oof, man, what scares me about that is I think those teams, particularly Florida, are so long and athletic and skilled and aggressive and defensively strong. Those two teams worry me greatly, but fortunately, Purdue doesn't have to deal with either of those until presumably it would be very far into the tournament, right? So we're talking about months away. But I think more pressing is Michigan's going to be a problem. Michigan's really good. And I don't mean to look too far ahead and make this sound like a season preview, but Michigan's a problem. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The good news is Purdue doesn't play Michigan until the middle of February. I believe they only play them once, and they get them at home. So that's nice. Certainly better than playing them when you're not feeling good about things or playing them in their place. Not that Chrysler's been that terrible to Purdue over the years, but I like that that's hanging out there a little further out, right? Both teams will probably be chugging and will be playing for the Big Ten, I would think, by that point. Michigan State, Illinois may have something to say about that, but maybe UCLA, right? But that's a problem for another time. Marquette and Auburn in the next week and a half, then Kent State, then it gets serious with the Big Ten schedule. Purdue begins the kind of what feels like the real Big Ten schedule, right? After like when we're used to it starting. But they start with a 2-0 start. But they start at Wisconsin, then versus Washington, then versus Penn State, then versus Iowa, then at USC, then at UCLA. So Purdue has a really good chance, honestly, of starting 6-0, 7-0 in the Big Ten, 6-1, something like that. I'm not saying those are all guaranteed wins, but you got the only ones on the road, and that ones I rattled off are Wisconsin and USC, and then at UCLA. So things are lining up well. I mean, as a Purdue fan, we always, we wait for the bottom to drop out, right? And we look at what could be wrong and what could be bad. And you know what? The games are all going to be tough conference, completely wacko, imbalanced schedule because of how many teams there are. Sure, you'd love to play the bad teams all twice. You don't get to do that necessarily. But you also don't play all the good teams twice. So take that for what it's worth. Not much else to say. This is again, pretty businesslike. They whipped them. They did what they're supposed to do. You should feel good about this. I feel good about it. It's exactly what I expected. It is precisely what I expected. And it is nice to be in a position where your team is at least predictable in that way, where you say, no, these guys are going to bounce back. They're fine. They're not going to lose their heads and lose to a team that, again, Minnesota's not very good, but they just beat Indiana. Like, they're not incapable, right? They're 1-1 in the Big Ten. Lucky them. They got to start with Indiana and Purdue. That's not exactly fair, but they're 1-1. So it's a win. You bank them. Right? As we say, they're all beautiful. All wins in the Big Ten are beautiful. And you're not giving any back. So that's really what I have to say about that. Let's take a look at what you all have to say, as Boiler Dad likes to say. We already talked about Kevin, PhD, Dr. Kevin. He said good evening. We got a few people saying hello here. Joe Ensley was the one who said it felt like the FDU game. First half felt like the FDU game. Second half felt like Texas Tech. Yeah, except Texas Tech, Purdue turned that on in the middle of the first half and never let up, which was super fun. That's why that was weird, right? Because Texas Tech didn't even give them a half, right? I think you're going to see that more often than you think, where a mediocre to decent team gives Purdue, makes you nervous, and then Purdue pulls away. Boiler fans do like to trickle. I don't know what that means from Ron Gable. We'll get back to Brad's comment in a minute. Kevin that says only his mom says doctor. That's nice. My mom, I would make everyone call me doctor. Don't let me fool you. I would make everyone refer to me as doctor. Let's see. Patrick says there's a weird game Smith played. Was like his hair was on fire. He did some more cool behind the back, behind the head passes. He did a couple more of those. He's clearly been, I don't know. He must be working on it. I was going to say he's clearly been working on that. Do you work on behind the back passes? I guess you do. They do feel sometimes a little showy. I'm not criticizing it. I think it's great and I think it's fun. And getting the crowd into it is part of the job if you're that kind of guy, right? But they're effective and they're appropriate when he does them. It's not like he's doing it on a 2-on-0 fast break, right? He's doing it because it deceives the defenders, right? And if you can do that effectively and set your guy up for a completely easy layup, that's great. Braden Smith was on quad double watch, M3 Adjuster says. It was a thing for a minute. What a great effort with the steals and setting the tone on defense. Yeah, he was aggressive. He had one steal in the first half, I think, where I think he stole it in the backcourt, right? And there was a foul called, and it looked like it was on him at first, but no, it was on Minnesota because he stole it clean, and then they fouled him. Like, that's how you start to break a team and take their spirit, right? Like, if you steal it, but you commit a foul, it makes the team go, oh, we should probably take care of the ball better. They almost got that. But when that happens, it's like, what are we doing now? Dang 223434 says, I like the fast version of Purdue that we saw in the second half. I agree. That was great. We saw that in most of the Tech game. Dowdy Dowd is here. It's Boiler Dowd. Who's this handsome fellow? I don't know who you're even talking about. Patrick also said, I expected a beatdown. We looked a little out of sync in the first half. Some credit to Minnesota for that. But we didn't exert our will and exploit our advantage until the second half. Exactly what I was saying. Let's see. Braden played more like a man possessed. It was great to see in person. He had that look in his eyes, says Jack Pridemore. Greg McManus says that Wisconsin's looking really bad. I haven't looked at that. Always happy to hear that. There's so many schools that they can't lose enough for me. There's some I don't really care. I got nothing against like Nebraska. I got nothing, frankly, against, I don't like Penn State as an institution, but I got nothing against their basketball program. But that's because they're kind of harmless, right? Oregon, Rutgers, Washington, USC, hard to have anything against them, right? But I love to watch Michigan State lose, Illinois, Wisconsin, even Iowa. I don't have much against Iowa because they're so hilarious. They're winning, all-time winningest coach, never went to the second weekend in 30-plus years of coaching. It's so great. It's such my favorite stat. It's one of my favorite stats. Let's see. Speaking of Wisconsin, Patrick says, speaking of Wisconsin looking bad, can someone explain Nebraska's man's to me? I assume that's a uniform comment. I'll have to take a look. I don't know what that means. Let's see here. What else is going on? Any other comments? You guys bringing anything tonight? Blake Widener says, great to see the second half effort. Braden, a menace on D. Got to get back to putting pressure on other teams. Boiler Down reminds us that it's nice to have the good guys start 2-0 in the Big Ten. Hasn't happened too often in the last decade. It's so weird, right? I feel like when they started this little stick a couple games in December, I feel like Purdue started that well. This is all from memory. I thought the first year or two, you were like, oh, good, a couple of wins early when you play teams that you should beat. It's nice to have that running start. But then he's right. The last few years, they've found a way to lose one of those games. And not the end of the world, but it sits with you then for weeks, right? Because you don't get another Big Ten swing. Let's see here. Crazy stat. Nick Cristiano says, crazy stat jumped out to me. Purdue's last in the league at free throw attempts and conversions. That is weird. That is really weird. You're right. That said, it's early. I know they're 9-1. That's still fairly early. They're going to play a lot of games. Third of the way through, maybe, give or take. I know I could look, but who cares about that? But it's early. That stuff will sort itself out. But they don't, the reason that feels weird is they don't have their free throw merchant, Zach Edey, who's laying waste to the NBA now. Weird. I guess he's better than just a free throw guy. I don't know. What do I know about this stuff? I don't know anything. But the truth is he did draw a lot of fouls. Guys like him draw a lot of fouls, right? Purdue's playing a little different this year than they've looked the last couple of years, right? And I guess it's not leading to as many free throw attempts, but that they do have to improve that, right? They got to draw more fouls. You got to draw fouls. Purdue's been shooting the ball well though most of the season, and that has something to do with it too. You shoot, you get clean shots. Guys don't have time to foul you. That all is part of it. So I do think it's an interesting thing to call out though, Nick. I did not know that. Let's see what else we got here. Indy Boiler says, "What's crazier, the second half run or the events this evening in Ann Arbor?" Man. Yeah, that stuff's just breaking now. And I got to tell you, when these things pop up, things that are this salacious and extreme, I assume you guys do this. It makes you think, like, is this all true? Could all these facts be right? Everyone's so eager in the media business now to be the first to post it, right? And there's so many pseudo accounts or fake accounts or people who are kind of in it but aren't, like, they might be a real reporter. Like the guy who's been posting a lot of the details, he seems like a legit guy, but he's not like the guy you'd say, well, he must be really well connected. And I think sometimes those guys kind of run with stuff, right? They hear something or they get a text or whatever and they run with it. And then it turns out it's not quite the story you heard. So I'm not casting doubt necessarily on that reporting. I'm just saying it's early for all this, folks. This all supposedly happened. He got fired today, this afternoon, like late today. And then this all supposedly happened tonight. For those that didn't see it, Sharon Moore was fired by Michigan for an improper relationship with a subordinate. Makes you wonder if they had beaten Ohio State again and were in the college football playoff. Would they have zero tolerance for this? I don't know. I don't mean to cast aspersions, but yeah, I kind of do actually. It's funny to see Michigan put out a statement talking about how they have zero tolerance for this sort of behavior when they have lots of tolerance for other behaviors. But yeah, the rumor is he had an affair with a subordinate. What's being reported tonight is really scary stuff. I will say, while we talk about, hey, I hope bad things happen to programs I don't like or to schools that we're not a fan of, I don't hope for this kind of stuff. And I hope you don't either, because I wish this wasn't true. I wish he just got fired because they made a jerky decision. I'd rather that, because that's funnier, because these guys make plenty of money. You don't have to worry about that. It's not like they lost their livelihood. They're going to go hungry now. They're not. But when you're talking about people's families being destroyed, which if any of this reporting is true, that's what's happening, right? People's lives are being destroyed. Like, there's nothing funny about that. There's nothing, I mean, I don't know what it's tragic is what it is. If that stuff being reported tonight about Sharon Moore and his malfeasance or dalliances are true, then he's got kids, he's got a wife. Like, it's really bad. It's really bad. And it's all on him. It's all on him. If everything's true that we're hearing, he deserves whatever criticisms he gets. But I just think it's hard to dance on that, because that sucks, because there's people being affected that aren't just him, and in really, really devastating ways. So I don't mean to throw cold water on anyone's enjoyment of bad things happening to a program that is kind of slippery and dirty. This has got nothing to do with cheating at football. This has got to do with pretty terrible life decisions and like I said, ruining people's lives. So let's see. Boiler Dowd chimes back in. Nice of him to join us tonight. He said Smith's defense impressed me more than his offense. Big leadership was a tone. Yeah. He was keyed up. Purdue was in the gold uniforms. Everything was very good tonight. This was fun. Let's see. Brother Ted says, I was freaked out by how they completely folded against Iowa State at home. Normal number one teams don't do that. They may lose a game, but they don't get to. Yeah, exactly. And Boiler and I talked about this. That's exactly what he talked about. It's not, and he wasn't even that upset that they lost. I think we all looked at, that's a really good team. That's a really good team. They've now vaulted up being everyone's like title contending team. I think we should pump the brakes a little bit. Still, first half of December, but it's not a crime to lose to a team that good. It's shakes you a little bit as a fan, shakes your confidence when you get absolutely run out of the gym. And that's what happened. They got run out of their own gym. I think it's a combination of things. Boiler Dad touched on this too, but when you're not having your best night, right, you're going to lose a lot of games when you're not having your best night to a lot of different teams. when all those things kind of converge, maybe they weren't ready for it. Maybe they weren't feeling, who the hell knows, right? But factor in whatever those things were, and Iowa State took the belt to the ass. That's what ends up happening. You get pummeled. And so yeah, if you were freaked out, I get it. I think once the runaway train goes away, it doesn't matter whether they lose by 10, 15, 20, 30. Like it matters mentally, but it was over. They were going to lose. And it's one game. It's one loss. So all matters how you rebound. And I'll be honest, I did not want them to get out to like a 15, 18, 20-0 start. I said that. I don't want them to lose ever. I think you're all the same way, but I don't mind a loss here and there. I think it grounds you, knocks you off the top of the pedestal, lets the coaches remind them they're not great and they've got work to do. Everybody needs that when you're a good team. They've been getting told how awesome they are for a long time. Let's see here. Motor City Boiler says Michigan's first call needs to be to Tom Allen. I mean, I don't mind it. I think their first call should be to Indiana's current coach, not their past coach. Just an idea, just a thought. But yeah, I mean, it got people talking already. Like, what happens? Does DeBoer go to Michigan? Why does everyone think DeBoer is going to leave? I understand he's probably not everyone's favorite in Alabama. He followed Saban, but he's had him in the playoff. Well, I guess he didn't go last year. He did go this year. They shouldn't be there, but they went. It's not exactly like he's been bad at Alabama. We'll see, I guess. When this first broke today about Sharon Moore, we were like, well, they knew about this because there were rumors about this for a while, him screwing around with somebody. We figured the timing meant that they had their guy in mind that they wanted. But as more has come out, it's making it seem like, well, maybe they realized they had no choice but to just do this, and maybe they are not in a good position. Greg says, yeah, Jay, zero tolerance for that kind of cheating. Exactly. Well said, Greg. That's exactly what they don't have any tolerance about that. They only care about cheating when the team isn't winning enough. Exactly. That was from Motor City Boiler. T-Mail says, will Anish call for this athletic department to be shut down too? I don't know if that's a dig, but we've really only said that about the places that have destroyed young people's lives through, sexual assault. So I don't know if that's a shot at us, but if it is, it's not well-founded. Let's see here. Not sure if the report about being arrested is true or is a parody account. I agree, Motor City. I don't think it's a parody. I kind of hope it is. I hope we all got fooled. I don't think it is, though. Brad Ebon says, I don't think Michigan fires them if they were 13-0 and in the CFP. I kind of agree. Let's see. Greg McManus says, Brian Kelly and Michigan will be the most hated program in America. I'm here for it. I think that would be fine. Makes them very hateable. They'd be good, though. That's the thing. People talk about Kelly and, I hate him and I hate Michigan. Perfect. Kelly, for all his problems, he's won a lot of games. He's won everywhere. Check his career record out. This was the first time he was ever fired. And even his record at LSU was pretty good. I think he won 10 his first year and then like 8 last year. And then he was 5-3 when he got fired this year. Okay, not enough for LSU, but let's not act like he was a bad coach, right? He's an asshole, but and he killed a kid. Don't forget that. But he wins, and that's all programs like Michigan care about. Let's not forget who we're talking about here. We're talking about Michigan, like bastion of ethics. They will have no problem. He's never been accused of cheating, I don't think, in any way. Just murder. Oh, sorry, no, not murder. Negligence? No, he wasn't charged with anything, was he? Let's see here. Blake Widmer says, IU would trade Sig straight up for Dusty. We'd know they'd rather be relevant in basketball and football. Michigan would take it too. I agree that Michigan would probably take that deal. I don't know if IU would do that. I think you guys forget how much football drives relevance and money, and it's much easier to build a basketball program back up than it is to build a football program back up. IU was already ranked this year. Like, they're back to being relevant, at least as relevant as you can be at this time of year. If they beat Kentucky, you're going to be hearing all about it, right? And they probably will. IU football has never been this, ever. I don't think they would make that trade. Because there's nothing to indicate that Signetti's a flash in the pan. There wasn't really anything to indicate it last year either, but 1 year, people were like, well, 1 year can happen, right? When the going got tough, he did lose to Ohio State and Notre Dame. Well, this year he proved all of that wrong. So I don't know if IU would do that. I really don't. I think they like being good at football, and I don't blame them. M3 adjuster says Smith blocked a three. Fletch got to the ball and tipped it forward, and Braden was on the breakaway, but the shot clock expired before he could attempt a dunk that missed off the back iron. Yeah, well, him exclamation pointing this game with dunks would have been. That's about the only thing I think was missing. Let's see what else here. Yeah, Motor City Boiler agreeing with me that you wouldn't do that. They're a football school. Yeah, Brother Ted, you're going to have to look this up. You said, I'm confused by the Moore story. He had an inappropriate relationship with a staff member, as in he had an affair. Yes, it's salacious. You should just go on Twitter, search it up, go wherever you get your news, you will find it. Yeah, with a staff member, a subordinate, in fact, which any of you who work in corporate know that while it's never a good idea to dip your pen in the company ink, it's really bad when the person's reports to you or a subordinate to you. Like, you can probably save your job if it's just another coworker. Still a terrible idea. Let me just tell you. But I met my wife at work. But no, we didn't work together. We were in different offices, same company, so not really the same. Neither here nor there. We weren't married to other people when we met either, so that's another key difference here. But yeah, he had an appropriate relationship with a direct subordinate. At least that's the story. And then it's deeper than that. So you'll have to look into that. Andy in Colorado says, imagine having a high-profile job like football and throwing it all away. I think about this every time somebody does something insane, but I think these guys, Mel Tucker was another one. Petrino, when he was at Arkansas with the motorcycle accident and everything. I think you guys have to remember that these guys feel untouchable, right? When you have been told you're the man for so long and you're paid in a way that says, I am the most important man in the state, right? Most of us can't get our mind around that, right? But when that's been told to you and demonstrated to you, and who knows what else you've gotten away with, right? Whether it's how you treat people like Bobby Knight, or how you scream at people on television like Tom Izzo, or whatever it is, you've become accustomed to having no rules that apply to you, or the rules don't apply to you, right? In general, you would even say, well, yeah, you can't do that, but then you'll go do it yourself. You lose sight of the fact that these guys feel untouchable. That why do people do these sorts of things in any walk of life? It's because they feel untouchable. They feel things can't happen to them. It really won't go wrong. I can always get out of this because I'm who I am. When you talk about, can you imagine throwing it all away? Well, none of us would, I don't think, because we look at it like, I would never risk any of this. Most people here, I bet you, think that way about their current job. If it's a good job, you probably think, I'm not going to do anything to screw this up, right? That's not how people like that think. There's the only way I can explain it. And the reason you can't understand it is because your brain isn't set up that way. Anytime you try to struggle to understand why people misbehave or act out or do something terrible, or we've all done that, right? Where you're like, I just can't imagine ever doing that. Yeah, you can't, because you're not a bad person. That's a good thing, that you can't imagine it. You can't wrap your mind around doing something stupid or hurtful or terrible to your family. Yeah, that's good. That's good that you can't figure that out. Dr. Kevin reminder, move the elf. Thank you. Those of you who are early heard my alarm go off, reminding me to move the elf. I do appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, yes, Brad Ebon says the alleged staff member is a Purdue grad. So there's the tie. That's why it was worth talking about on this recap. Beller Dad asked me what it's like to be one of the highest paid people in the state. You'd have to be more specific. Which state are you talking about? Because there's several there. I'd need more info to be able to answer that. And Blake Widmer says, great points to me. Ultimate power corrupts. Yes. And I think we're going to end on that, because anytime somebody tells me I made a great point, I feel like, it's like George Costanza on Seinfeld. Those of you remember, he realized that the best way to leave a room or a party or anything was right after you made a really good joke, because he realized that's how stand-up comedians would end their sets and be like, that's all for me. Good night. So he started doing that. When he'd make a good line and people would laugh, he'd go, thank you, good night, and he would leave. So I'm going to follow George's lead. For those of you who are old enough to have watched a show that went off the air 27 years ago, I just had to throw something in there like that. Brother Dad likes to make references to things that were 30, 40, 50 years old. So that's just sort of a test to see if Greg McManus is listening, because, he's one of the old guys who gets those jokes. Just kidding, Greg. Thanks everyone for joining. Go to Home Field, get your Christmas presents there. Go to AJ's, tell them Boiled Sports sent you. Seriously, actually tell them that. Say I came in because Boiled Sports told me to. Adam loves that. He has told us he has made a lot of money because of us, and he appreciates it very much. So we appreciate that because we love supporting him, a local guy, a Purdue business, a Purdue guy, non-chain, a guy who's just making it happen. So go in there and tell him that. It's 35 minutes. Purdue wins. Let me check again. 85-57? Yes, 85-57. Purdue moves to 2-0 in the Big Ten, 9-1 overall. They're number 6 in the nation. They got another game Saturday. You win that game, you probably inch up. Depends what happens above you, right? When you're this high, you got to see what happens above you. But for the moment, feels like Purdue's back on the right track. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night. See you soon.